Pour en revenir à mon parcours, j'ai plus ou moins délaissé les études. Et je suis devenue ce qu'on appelle une femme au foyer, occupant de l'éducation des enfants et du bien-être de mon mari. Lui est agent commercial pour la compagnie Airlines.
Downtime, en français, temps mou.
The thing I found about Downtime is the fact that it kind of showed the prevalence about the mental health issue, how can it affect women, domestic violence, and the fact that how she was being abused, and it kind of showed the family. It showed also the fact that her two kids became very delinquent, meaning that one was addicted to drug abuse. Her young daughter in that teenage age, it's a very tough age, and the fact she became delinquent, she became into troubles, and it really talks about, and also it inspired us because, also I don't know about France, but it didn't give the number as the first film, the drama film, but how mental health issues are a very serious issue, especially right here in this country, and then how she was mentally affected, and that's one of the things that inspired me. So.
I just picked up on the point where you picked it up is like, it's just one moment that destroys the whole family. It's just not her, not her husband, but like the whole generation went away with that. That's kind of a moving part to me, is in like a single moment can change the whole life of yours as well as like the other people related to you or maybe unrelated to you as well.
I know, and I'd be curious to know the numbers as well, but it's amazing to see how it affects the entire family. It's not just one person, it trickles down to everyone. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
I didn't fully grasp the theme. I saw her actions and the results of her actions, and I loved the way that it did trickle down. There was pieces missing for me that I couldn't emotionally connect to. The older woman, I didn't know who she was. Yes. Someone.
She was the mother-in-law.
Yes. So we were saying it's most likely the mother at an older age. So I didn't even realize that because I guess I was looking for an emotional reaction to place her and where she fit in the timeline. And because she was just looking, I guess in my head, I was like, I don't know who she is, she's grandmother. My favorite part was actually, because I'm more analytical, was the sound design actually. I like the way they use the sound design, like the guy opening the door, there was a sound, I don't know if anyone heard, yeah, it was just like, and then that was like awesome, because I think out of all three, that was the only one that used, not music, but sound effects to bring out moments and situations.
The thing that struck me about Downtime was the fact that this woman didn't completely understand how her kids got so bad, and she thought they were so wonderful, but I think the kids were rebelling because the parents were fighting all the time. Maybe it's just too obvious. Was that the theme?
I mean, it's completely up to your interpretation, you know? That's the thing. I mean, they haven't seen her for 10 years at this point, is what I thought. Or does anybody want to try to explain their point, or how they saw it to answer his question?
I thought that she made sacrifices for the family, and she bottled up a lot of regrets, because she spoke very proudly about herself, that how she skipped 2 classes and she was very brilliant, and then she just fell in love with love at first sight, and she gave up everything.
Yeah.
So that regret was bottling up inside her, and it happens to a lot of women wherein they go through this phase and they completely ignore themselves, and that kind of, it's not her family's fault. Little bit it's her fault that she preferred to ignore herself, and the whole family is set up wherein she gets ignored.
So yeah, a bit of, like you said, guilt and regret.
Right. So Yeah, she could have, if she would have been practical about it, she would have also parallelly pursued her career. Maybe this wouldn't have been the end, but it happened. So it's a powerful message for women that please do think before, like, it's an emotional moment, having family, but yes, think before making sacrifices.
Don't lose yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I picked up on that is that the abuse, that she had a break, she had a psychotic break, and that her condition in the hospital was showing that she had the break, and she didn't know that her children, she didn't know where her children were, she didn't know what had happened, so that whatever that event was where she had a violent break, which does happen to people. We see it all over our news feeds. So people have a breakdown, and then perhaps this story is showing us how she maybe wasn't herself when that happened, that she was a victim of domestic violence, and she had a break, and so at the point where she's in the hospital, she is lost and doesn't know where she is or where her children are.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they were saying that she was in that loop, stuck in that time frame 10 years ago.
What I got from it was that, like, it's called downtime, right? And I think a lot of us in our downtime, we keep, maybe not all the time, but like, I think some of us are sometimes stuck in the past. And like, what we did in a certain situation or what could have been better or something like that. And I feel like, yeah, like the film portrays her being in like, she has like a mental illness and she's stuck in this one period in her life, but yet I don't think you have to have a mental illness to be like that. I think a lot of us like get stuck in a certain moment in our lives and we never get past it. And if we do, that's great, but there were so many years where we kind of wasted like being stuck in that moment in our lives. And for me, sorry, it's like my voice. But yeah, for me it was that. She was stuck in there and she couldn't get out, and she was using whatever downtime she had when she was at that institution to work out everything that happened. And she just keeps remembering her kids, and that's great. But yeah, that to me, that's what it's about. Humans in general, we get stuck in a moment in our lives. Sometimes it's various moments, and we keep, maybe it's like a little therapy in our head, and it's like, what's going on? Like, what happened then? Was it what he said? Did he really say that? And then you kind of forget. But it's just a replaying.
No, I think it's a great point though. It's like self-sabotage in a sense.
I was going to say there's a socioeconomic component to that film because they were perceivably upper class. And her education, she talked about where she went to school and all of that, and they met and fell in love, and he seemingly came from a great family. And a lot of times when we think about domestic violence and domestic abuse, we think of lower income families or lower class, so to speak. And we see that domestic violence does not only affect a certain group of people, it affects, it's across the board. It crosses boundaries in terms of economic, class, race, ethnicities, not everything. So that's one of the things you kind of become aware that you can't be judgmental about who's suffering abuse and then how it's going to impact you. And, so that's one of the things that I thought was good about that film.
With that, I think in this film, what was being portrayed was how everybody deals with and processes trauma, because that was at the center of this. They were each in their own way dealing with and figuring out a way to get through and survive. And what I found was that the mother was almost like the hub, representing both methods in which the daughter and son were dealing with trauma in their own way. The daughter lashing out and the son, numbing it with substance. And there was the mother lashing out, and then they would inject her and she would be in a semi-comatose state, if you will. And when she would sort of start to come around, when she was kind of in between the two states, you could see her being able to reconcile, okay, wait a minute, where are my babies? I need to hold my babies. And she was as close to, I guess, normalcy as she could get until she would swing back to the lashing out and then back and forth and back and forth. It was tragic. And tying back to what you said about you can't
just look at someone and know what kind of battles and demons they're fighting every day. Because when the guy was robbing the son, and he was like, you don't even look like a rich guy, whatever, I'm just going to take your 40 francs or what, euros or whatever he was taking. I don't even know what currency we use anymore. Anyway.
This is the judgment-free zone, no worries.
Yeah, the same with the daughter too, you know, the cops were like, you know, who the hell are you? Like, why don't you have parents, what's going on? So, anyway, overly cerebral, that was what I got out of it.
The emotional pendulum, right?
Yeah.
One extreme to the other. Okay, last one.